Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the K-12 Corner. I'm Diane Woodworth, a business development education specialist here at Weigand Construction and a retired school superintendent, by the way. And today I'm joined by Chris Soseby, the Director of Business Development here, and we're going to discuss education, the state of K-12 education and its future, and other associated items. What's this about, K-12 Corner?
So our thought was to have somebody with your experience, which we very much value, that's set on the other side of the table from a standard contractor, construction manager, and to bring your expertise and the language that educators speak and administrators speak and bring that to our team on the construction side to better understand how we can support the groups that we work with throughout projects and planning and all that goes with that. So we thought that this would be a nice opportunity to communicate it, because one of the things that we've landed on as the biggest obstacle / success on our end of the spectrum would be, how do we communicate the plan to students, families, staff, administrators, and then how easily is it for them to absorb that and to figure out how it is, the effect that it's going to have on them. Then pivot to figure out what's the best for the individual student, for the teacher that's trying to speak to 30 children or maybe speak to 5 children, whatever the case. But we just feel that there's a lot of ways that we can communicate that message. And lucky you get to be the main person to do that communication.
Yeah.
So Diane, the K-12 Corner, what can we expect, not just today, but with some of the future episodes that you have planned?
Right. So today we were trying to set the stage and just talk a little bit, about what this is all about. And in the future, we're going to go on site and find some administrators, maybe board members, to talk to about some of the things we alluded to today, dig in a little deeper and get their views on these kinds of subjects. So I think it'll be exciting.
I agree with you. I think there's no better way to learn than to learn from experience, right? And if we can tap into the experiences of our peers, then everybody wins.
Right, and then share it with others through this podcast.
I'm really excited to where this is going to go.
Good, me too.
With your experience in the past and now sitting on a little bit more on our side of the table, where do you see the K-12 spectrum, I guess, or the education? What's changed? What's become different than even 3 or 4 years ago? Right.
Well, I think K-12 education today is facing lots of things. I think as our society has kind of changed, therefore so has K-12 education. I always think of K-12 education as a microcosm of society. So whatever's happening out there, it's also happening in schools. And so right now that includes, I'm thinking about transparency with boards and communities, and with the political climate that we're in, and that's very important right now, that there's a lot of transparency and communities understand what school boards and superintendents are working towards, or as they're looking at financial things, what does that mean for the community and that type of thing. Another thing that schools are facing today in Indiana and in the country is staff shortages. I think we've all heard about.
As we all are, right?
I know, right? And I think we've all heard about a couple schools that weren't even, major school systems that weren't even able to start school this year because they didn't have enough bus drivers. So yeah, that's a problem with, there's many substitutes in classrooms right now because we can't find enough teachers for K-12. And yeah, the whole spectrum of employees. So that I know is a real concern. Another thing right now, still coming out of the pandemic for schools, is learning, student learning. And those gaps, many students got far behind, as we've heard and we know. So how do we go on, keep everybody moving forward in their learning and still catch those students up? So I know that's a major thing
and
also.
That's always a big component of education anyways, right? Like you have students in your classroom that are at different levels, and you're trying to speak to all of them.
Yes, absolutely.
And you're saying that gap got immensely bigger by being at home.
Right. So of course there's been federal funds that have been issued to help students get caught up, but sometimes that's like, well, how do we use these federal funds? We also need to update the HVAC so we have better air quality so students can learn, but we also need to get them caught up in their learning. So just many balls in the air right now.
Trying to balance them out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's some of the obstacles that everyone's dealing with today. What are some of the successes in the last 2 or 3 years where people have overcome those obstacles, or school districts have overcome those obstacles, and really changed the way that students learn or that educators teach, or whatever the case may be?
Right. Well, the pandemic caused some of those things to happen with the way learning
Had no
happens.
choice, right?
Right, they had no choice. And sometimes it was really difficult, and sometimes it's probably been really good, because I think we've learned how technology can be a great tool.
Sure.
Can also be a very difficult tool to use, and not everybody liked it, but it did cause some good things to happen, I think. I think another positive outcome that's been a change is more individualized learning. With everybody being at such a different place, right, in the classroom, like you just said, and now with even more gaps, I think it's caused educators to focus more on what does the student need? What does the student need? Are these 2 or 3 similar? I could put them together in a group and we could work together in a group. But thinking more individual and small group, I think.
And we've seen that probably in a lot of our spaces that we've renovated or built new, is that collaborative space and the ability to grow the space or shrink the space, to kind of meet the needs of the class.
So maybe flexibility, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Flexibility with learning and with the space that it happens
And
in.
as much as it is a physical, there's some physical parameters, it's also getting into a mental space of being able to do that, right? Because it's a big change from speaking to the mass.
That's right.
To speak to individual small groups that are part of the mass.
Right, and it changes the instructional strategies that are needed if you're the teacher.
Right.
Because you can't just deliver this lesson to all 30 kids in this room. They're at different places.
Because they're all
so what
catching
does
it at
that
different-
mean, right?
Yeah.
Education is a lot about communication, I think, and so that's kind of what you just talked about. And I have really valued my time at Weigand, feeling that, the understanding about the importance of education. I really feel that here, and so I appreciate that you folks would want us to even have this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, and
It's
I think with a younger generation, with younger employees, we see that it's not just about building the physical piece of the project. It's kind of owning it, having an ownership, having a personal investment in it, whether that be an emotional investment, whether that be a mental investment. You know, where we've partnered with a student group or we've partnered with an educational component. It's more than just building it and then leaving.
Right.
You know, we want to be more than that. So, and our employees want to be more than that.
And I have definitely felt that from Weigand employees. Both when I was an owner and Weigand did work for us, and now that I'm here as part of the company, I really appreciate that feeling of it's important to impact the community, right?
Yeah,
we want to have an impact on the building that we build, but also more than that.
Yeah, we want to be remembered for more than that.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I always feel that and appreciate that. Well, I think that K-12 education changes the trajectory of lives. I think we all know that really having a strong education is one factor that can really change a life, right? For children who are struggling, if they can do well in school and find the right path for themselves, it really changes the trajectory for them and their future family, right?
Sure.
If they have children. And so I think that's really exciting to be a part of that here at Weigand.
Well, and you brought up a great comment there when you said it changes the path. I think one of the things that we've noticed so many times in the last 2 to 3 years is that it's not one path for education. There's so many different paths that students can take.
Yes.
And we allude to that or get to that in a future broadcast. But I think that's something that we definitely want to delve into, is that we see school systems maybe reverting back to some of the components of school 30 years ago, and the importance of the trades and the skilled trades and the need for those people in our industry. They're certainly important to our company.
For sure.
And all the companies that we support. So we want to be part of that. We want to invest in that. And there's no better way than to do it when children are coming up through the K-12 education.
No, absolutely right. Helping everybody find their path, right? So thanks everybody for joining us on this first episode of the K-12 Corner. I'm excited to continue the conversations as we go out and be on site at different school districts. So I do hope you'll tune back in.